without talking about them, what everybody else wants to talk about right away, I can tell you from an economic development standpoint, I'm excited. I have 2 new retail buildings being built at Shoregate. They're each 6,000 square feet with about 5 units in each. Rumor has it that there's a couple businesses already slated to go in. I don't know it for a fact, but one starts with an S and ends in an Arbucks, and the other one may be a Chipotle. So I'm hoping that is the fact, because it's a big boom for us here in Willowick and Lakeshore Boulevard, and ties into our Lakeshore corridor. Most of my businesses are still open. Some I know are hurting. Part of what we did with our CARES Act funding was offer our businesses a grant of $5,000 for a small business to stay. We had about 15 businesses take care of that, take advantage of that. And I was happy to do so we don't lose those places we come to love here, like Aleshi's and Sports Fanatics, and places that were here that are unique and small businesses that we're trying to keep going. For the last 2 years or so, Mayor Morley, Mayor Fiala, myself, and a lot of the mayors on the lakefront have been working on the SID. We hope to see the light of the end of the tunnel here, where the cities get to step away and the SID takes over. Or hopefully, we may have to push the train out of the tunnel, but we're at the point where I think we can get that going and help these people that live along the lake. That'll be a big win for us in Lake County. I'm happy to say that our housing stock, our houses for sale in the city have been selling quickly, selling for high prices. I even have 2 new houses that are just submitted on the lake on Cresthaven, which will build 2 houses on 4 lots, and probably close to the $600,000 to $800,000 range, if not more. So that's a big win for Willowick, and I'm happy to see that. This year, with all the changes in the schools, Mayor Morley lost his senior center building. Even though our senior center is closed, we have a commercial kitchen. We were able to host Council on Aging, the Meals on Wheels program here, so we can continue to serve the residents in this area of Lake County with meals on a daily basis, which is surely needed. We just did a great grocery giveaway there about a week ago, this Tuesday, and we gave out about 480 boxes of much needed supplies, food, gift cards, and that was with Western Reserve, and we hope to do that again. It ran pretty smoothly. We didn't have a whole lot of time to get the word out, but we were still able to get that many boxes out, and so that was good. Unfortunately, the things that we have that are on hold is my lakefront development plan is near the end. We're having some issues with NOACA, and it's tough to take traffic counts during a crisis that we have in COVID. People aren't driving like they used to. Schools were closed. So we are working through that. I'm hoping to have that complete here soon because that's a big deal for me on the lakefront here. It may change our future plans slightly, but it's still a lot of outdoor space. And we can see after this year, that's something we desperately need. Our lakefront, our Vine Street Corridor project with the city of Willowick, the city of Eastlake, and the city of Willoughby, along with Lake Tran, has kind of stalled. We were supposed to have everything done by November, but right now that's kind of on hold until we can make some headway and figure out some things with those traffic counts. Because what we are doing there is really streetscape. So we may change the roads, lighting, street lights, and those kind of things to create that corridor, business corridor there. So until we can get things somewhat normal, I think we're not going to have, we're not going to go forward on that too quickly, although we just had meetings recently. So the elephant in the room is the COVID-19 crisis that we all were hit with about a year ago. And it's been a challenge. I don't know any of us that signed up for this when they ran for mayor. They said, boy, you're going to have to deal with a crisis and make decisions daily and be up to date on everything. but I am proud to say that as a county, we did really well. Leadership is the only ship that doesn't pull into a safe port in a storm, and we could see that in the county this year. Weekly meetings were taken with all the mayors and managers and all the officials in the county, the health department, to update us on daily events, how many people were getting sick. Now it's about vaccines, and we were able to make decisions as a group. So we didn't have one person hold fireworks and be inundated with people in Lake County. We made those decisions as a group, and it made it easier for myself. I know I can speak for sure, but it made it easier for us to get through this crisis and continue to work through this crisis, knowing that we're all in it together. This wouldn't have happened without the leadership of Mayor Morley, quite frankly. I like to rib him, but today I want to honor him. My favorite picture of him. But he deserves a lot of praise, and the mayors and managers group kind of took hold of this right from the beginning. We get weekly. I can't tell you how many emails from Dennis's office with Judy, and he's not the most timid person. He's not afraid to ask tough questions, and we got a lot out of that. So my hat's off to him for his leadership during this crisis, and to all of you, quite frankly. And it's been easier to do this job this year, knowing we were all doing it together. So I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I hope I'm close.
You're good. You're perfect, Rich. Thank you.
That's a first for me then. So, but that's what I got for you, and I will have questions at the end.
Thank you, Rich. Now we're going to go next to Mayor Dennis Morley from the city of Eastlake, and then we'll circle back to Kevin since he's having some difficulty with his connection. Dennis, you're up.
Morning, everyone, and Karen, thanks for putting this together. As you know, my peers do love me, as you can tell with Mr. Mayor Rich Regovich. He takes my picture everywhere with him. He has it on his nightstand. I've talked to his wife before. She said, I can't compete with your picture at night, but hey, it is what it is. But again, I'm honored the words from the mayor this morning. I am the mayor, the president of the mayors and managers for Lake County. And we joke amongst ourselves because the only thing the president and the mayors and managers used to do is line up a speaker and make sure lunch was there. Obviously, it's been difficult times the last year for everyone, our residents, our employees, our businesses. And I'm not going to go on. I mean, I think we are all aware of the COVID and the effects that it's done to our businesses and to our community. And so I will leave it at that for now. But I'd like to thank my employees, my directors, my chiefs, our residents, our business owners, and Eastlake City Council for working through the year 2020. I mean, I don't believe that 2021, until we're fully vaccinated, a lot of events that you already see are being canceled this year already. I know Fairport canceled their Mardi Gras, and events will, the bigger events will continue to be canceled until we get a grip on this thing. Moving ahead on the finances of the city, we did have a good, we're working on some final numbers for 2020, and we will have a good carryover again into 2021. We are looking at possibly a $1.4 million loss of revenue from 20 into 21, but we will still be positive at the end of 21. With that, we also, one of the big things we did in finances in 20 was we refinanced some of the bonds on the stadium. The stadium was to be paid off in 2031. The stadium will now be paid off in 2026. And actually, with the bond ratings and the interest out there, we saved $765,800 on the bond refinancing. So Carol Ann Schindel, our finance director, and all of us worked together with our bonding agents to make that happen. We are working, the Lake County Captains did not play last year. I did talk to them. They ended up being moved up a class in Major League Baseball, so that's a plus. They should possibly have a schedule here in the next few weeks. They will start at least a month later than last year, but then they will go a month later in the fall. So obviously they are working with the county for the, with the mass gatherings to see how many people will be allowed in the game. So we're looking forward to that. Again, that was one of our big hits for finances in 20 with them not playing. We still look to have our markets that we had and our car shows this summer. We've been working with the county and during our mayors and managers meetings on Tuesdays to go over, possibly what can happen this summer with events. I know everyone's looking forward to the warm already, but again, it's just who knows where it takes us again for this summer of any events. But we're staying positive, as Rich said, and the other mayors, I imagine, possibly will say is, we've been working as a group since last March when we found this out. We started out having the 2 meetings. We have one. We've had our mayors and managers once a month, and all of us together have done a phenomenal job just keeping in contact, with the county offices. Commissioner Hammercheck's the president there. So we've been working well together. Ron Graham, Joe Busher from the EMA, and everyone else. I can go on and on with everyone that's been involved. But again, it's just not one group. It's all of us working together to get through this pandemic. Again, the vaccines are obviously the issue right now, and hopefully those come quicker in the future. We've also done some stormwater improvements in the harbor area over the last 2 years. It's about $6 million improvements. We put a new pump station in. We're putting a new sewer system in there. We're hoping to have that done in September. Stevens Boulevard was started last year. It will be finished this year all the way to the Willoughby border into the Lakeline border. That started out well. We got pushed back a little with the COVID and some issues with Dominion Gas Company trying to get things moving on. So also you'll see for police and fire, we actually are going to hire 3 new firemen this year. We hired 2 police last year and plan on possibly hiring another one this year. We're looking possibly to hire an in-service department. We did get a grant for Erie Road Park for $475,000, and we acquired Borax Landing from Western Reserve, and we are going to make that a passive park. I've had some discussions with Mayor Fiala, had some discussions with Dave Anderson from the Port Authority and Peter Zahersky. We're going to be working on trying to get a path from Eastlake to Willoughby on the river's edge. Again, these things don't go quickly, but we continue to work as a group, all of us together for the common ground to do the best for our residents. As Rich said, we are in the stall, and he did steal that word stall from me from yesterday. We had a Zoom meeting, and I accidentally showed him my sheet for today. So Rich stole that from me today. But yeah, Vine Street is on a stall. We do have a conference call tomorrow to see that we can get that moving. As you see in the slide that is up, we've had some new homes going up, and we have the Chagrin River Ridge development going up. You see to the big blue house that is up for sale and is finished, where the dream house was going to go next to that. So that developer has 1 house up. He has a couple more people looking at the lots to build, and then we're hoping that that takes off over there. They also, if you see in the middle slide, that was Washington Elementary School. The building is down, and Taft is also down. So they will be putting between the 2 areas where Taft Elementary was and Washington, 60 houses, 30 on probably each area. We don't have the full plans on that yet, so we're looking forward to that. We also have had about 10 houses built on the lake, even with the erosion that's been going on. And again, with myself, Mayor Fiala, Mayor Regovich, Mayor Klo out of North Perry, and the rest of the group, all communities are involved for the SID. We're hoping to get that moving here and give it to our residents to start getting their financing. We also have a BevCorps that's going to be coming into town. Sorry, Bob. They went from Willoughby to get a bigger facility. They're going into the old Lake Business Products building. I do have 2 minutes left, Captain Karen. I see you just sent me, so I'll rush through the last couple. We also had Steaks company that is they came out of incubator of Jack Prince that are going to have 400 employees in the old Walmart. We're looking continuing to working with them. Our senior center has moved to the community center off of Roberts. The senior centers probably are not at least going to open. We're going to get more direction in April. So again, we don't know when the senior centers will open. The 2 new schools did open, and we look forward to, unfortunately with 2020, the kids really didn't get to use those schools as much as possible. But we're looking forward to 21. Looking forward to continuing working with all my colleagues. And again, I thank you for this opportunity of speaking today, and wish everyone a great day after today. And then also, so thank you. I forgot to say slide. So Legends Seafood and Chicken will open up tomorrow on 361 and Vine. Over the Moon and Bakery did open. They were a business that was in our market that she's doing very well. That's also in the same plaza. And we're looking forward to more businesses and restaurants coming into the city, hopefully this year, once we get moving on Vine Street. With that will end. And again, I appreciate everyone's attention. I appreciate everyone on today. Karen said there was 58 of you on, and these Zooms unfortunately are getting to be easier for all of us, though we'd all like to be in person. So everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin, do you want to give it another try? Do you have a good connection?
I think I'm about the same, but can you hear me any better now?
Yes, and someone did suggest maybe using your cell phone. Would that?
Yeah, it says, I did that, and it says, please wait, the meeting host will let you in soon, so.
Okay, here we go. All right, you should be good.
All right. Let's get off of this.
Kevin, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Talk about living in the day and age, right? So, was anyone able to hear any of my presentations to spare you the boring part before we got to the wonderful picture of Mayor Fiala not adhering to the governor's orders?
I think we heard most of it. It was a little chopped up, but if you want to start with that wonderful picture of Bob, that would be great.
So yeah, as we can see here, most of our mayors around the county have been doing a great job of leading by example when we talk about asking our residents to adhere to the governor's orders. But one of our mayors didn't do such a great job the other day with that. So anyhow, I think I was getting into, as this picture of Bob came up, I did really want to say how, Bob really has served as a phenomenal role model for me in the last year, and always been available for counsel, and I've certainly appreciated his steadiness. I did want to make mention that I'm not thanking Bob for his toughness during our dispatch negotiations. But in all honesty, and if some of you on the line don't know, Kirtland did contract this past year with the city of Willoughby to start taking on our emergency dispatch services. And we started that in August. And that was a tremendous work between both departments, both police and fire. And Bob and I got to a good chance to work with each other. And I certainly appreciate his efforts there to get that done. But what it did do is, it's a great demonstration, or it shows a great demonstration of local collaboration between, two neighboring cities. And we've got a great great group of mayors, as we all know, here in Western Lake County. And I know through, more conversations in the future here, we'll be able to continue and create new partnerships they'll always have our community's safety and well-being in mind. If you can go back to the first slide, please. Just so everyone doesn't have to continue to see Bob not adhering to the governor's orders. So, but I would also be remiss if I didn't thank Andy Gardner for his countless hours of time, either on the phone or before COVID. We were meeting quite frequently. As two new mayors and two part-time mayors, what I got to realize about Andy really quickly is I got a glimpse into his quick wit. One morning in early or mid-February, we were talking about the trials and tribulations of new and part-time mayors, and I suggested that we start a new mayor's support group. And Andy shot back with right away, "Hi, I'm Andy, and I'm a new mayor." So I guess it's just that, we have a lot of fun, but we all take our jobs very seriously. But I am here to talk about the state of the city of Kirtland, right? And so we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of work done here in the first year. I'm proud not only the way our city has navigated the turbulent waters of our COVID-19 situation in 2020 and coming into 2022 or 2021. I'm sorry, let's not fast forward too much. But, in spite of all that, we still took some good steps forward. Last March, our city council passed a budget appropriation that forecasted going into 2021, we would only have $58,000 in unencumbered cash reserves. So having less than 120 days under my belt as a mayor at that point, and COVID just setting in, clearly that was concerning, and we knew we had a lot of work to do. So, but we've, coming in, that was kind of coming on the heels of a pretty tough election campaign. So being able to just come in and implement significant, structural changes in short order is, change is never easy, let's face it. But nonetheless, I think we all know that we're elected to aim for the, our higher ground, higher sights, and to make the best decisions we can in interest of our taxpayers. And I know that this group does that. Today, Kirtland here, just a year later, we have 20% less full-time workers than a year ago, roughly 20% at least. We have a new service director, a new law director, a new city engineer, and we have a new senior center director whose role was recently expanded into executive assistant to the mayor as well. April 2020, I issued a directive to avoid all non-essential all non-essential spending due to the COVID crisis that was setting in on us. And then with the help of one-time infusions from the state and federal government totaling about $500,000, and by implementing some of the structural changes that I mentioned, that same general fund balance today stands at, there was at $58,000 in the forecast, now stands roughly at $1.1 million. So, some hard decisions had to be made, and we controlled costs, and we're sitting in a better place today. And so I'm proud of everybody that worked hard to make that happen this past year. The good news is we're on the right track in Kirtland, and with the leadership of our police and fire chiefs that did help guide that successful transition, with the dispatch and the creative and resourcefulness of our new service director. Tyler, can you go to slide 3, please? So you can see here that our newly developed road de-icing brine system that our service director, Finaro, along with the newly hired city mechanic, they basically from scratch implemented and designed and now are getting ready to implement our new brine de-icing system. So what that's going to enable us to do is not only to more effectively treat our roads, but at a lower cost too. So, and with these, we're hoping to get our first load of brine or our first order of brine in this week to fill those tanks up. So with our, the deep freeze that looks like it's coming next week, it's a lot more effective than salt. So hopefully we'll be able to get out and not only pre-treat our roads, but more effectively treat the roads as that snow and ice falls. I guess the point is here in Kirtland, as I know we're doing in so many other places, we're thinking creatively and looking for every opportunity to deliver that better government for our residents. So, I mean, and after all, it's in their interest that we serve, right? So thanks again to Karen. Thanks to all of you for putting up with my technical difficulties this morning, and look forward to any questions.
Kevin, thank you very much. Next is Mayor Andy Gardner from the city of Willoughby Hills. Andy?
Thanks, Karen. Am I coming through better than Mayor Headroom from Kirtland?
You are.
Great. Good morning, everyone. My pleasure to be here with you representing the city of Willoughby Hills. Tyler, if you can go to the next slide. I decided to go overboard on slides because I'm kind of shy and I'd prefer you look at the screen instead of me. So starting with the topic that dominated the year, the pandemic, as was the case with the other cities, this was the biggest item of city business during 2020. We had about 570 cases reported in the city during the year. And next slide, Tyler. Responding was a group effort. I'd like to thank City Council, shown here in the manner that I've gotten to know them best over the last several months. Council President Chris Hallam, Councilman Joe Jarmuskevich, Councilman Dan Zagaric, Councilwoman Nancy Fellows, Councilwoman Tanya Taylor Draper, Councilman Dan Connect, and Council Vice President Mike Klein, with cameos here from the city engineer and the BZA chair. Really hard work, a team effort in Willoughby Hills. I'd also like to thank all of the city employees, my finance director, Frank Burkacek, Mark Rubis, city road superintendent, police and fire chiefs, both retired Chief Chris Collins from the police department, new Chief Matt Nagley, Fire Chief Rob Gandy, city engineer Pete DeFranco, my law department, clerk of courts Janine Mullen, and executive assistant Gloria Majeski for all their hard work. We received about $1.15 million in CARES Act funding. And if you go to the next slide, here's a few highlights on how we used it. Our biggest purchase was a new ambulance that was received in December and put in service. Next slide. We were also able to put about $100,000 in grants out to our apartment complexes and our businesses. Councilman Dan Zagaric and Councilman Mike Klein led the effort there. What was really humbling, I'd like to tell everyone, is how many businesses actually said that they were okay. They wanted more funds to be available for other businesses. So really, we talk about how well the mayors have worked together. The businesses, I know many of them were struggling, but to push away grants so that others could benefit was really nice to hear. Next slide. We created a senior outreach program, Senior of the Day program. Executive Assistant Gloria Majeski did this with donated funds and on her own time. And the right slide there just shows a few of the many thank you cards we received from seniors who otherwise might have been pretty isolated as this started. Next slide. Our Recreation Commission, Rec Director Sandy Grubis, her team. I'm not creative, but we were able to implement a bunch of new programs, the Eat Local program, a new, brought back our photo contest, holiday lights. Next slide, please, Tyler. As well as doing some socially distanced programs that we hadn't done before. Started a new Letters to Santa program. And if you go to the next slide, they were very successful. One thing, our traditional Memorial Day ceremony we couldn't have. Instead, we turned it into a fundraiser for the VFW and raised somewhere around $1,800 for the VFW by placing name tags and flags in memory of those veterans from the city. Next slide, please. We were also able, instead of our Easter egg hunt, we did a drive-through event. Next slide, Tyler. We had a drive-through trunk or treat. This gridlock downtown Willoughby Hills, if you'd like to call it that, 6 and 91. We had about 500 cars come through on a Friday rush hour. So great success, but a little frustrating to the police department. Next slide, please. The photo contest, Mayor's Choice winner here. Next slide. A drive-through Winterfest, and more importantly, a toy drive. Again, the support of our businesses has been outstanding. Next slide, Tyler. We were able to fill an ambulance with toys. And next slide. I'd love to thank Dynamic Duo and Emerald Glen Title, two huge supporters over the years for those programs. And this year more than ever, I thought having that toy drive was critical. A new program, nope, go back, there you go. The Holiday Parade of Lights, which was the prior slide. First time we ever did it, thanks to the police, fire, and service departments. We're able to take Santa around and visit kids who couldn't visit at our normal party. Couple other initiatives. Next slide. We did make the police substation on the west end of the city operational. Our detective bureau is now housed there. We've got workstations for patrol coming in. So improved service from the police at the west end of the city is the goal there, and has already started bringing some good results. Next slide. The biggest thing non-COVID, Police Chief Collins retired after 20 years of service. I'm deeply grateful to Chief for his long tenure, his guidance. As Kevin said, I'm a new mayor and I need a lot of guidance. But also during 2020, Chief did a great job helping us. He stuck around after his official retirement date for 6 months, let us transition to our new chief. Next slide. Sergeant Matt Nagley was promoted. He's on the right, picture on the very right with retired Chief Collins in the middle, and one of our new sergeants, Shannon Vichet. I'd like to thank again Councilman Zagira, Councilman Jarmut-Scavich for helping on the interview committee. Willoughby Chief Schultz and Wickliffe Chief Ice for their assistance in the interview panel as well. A couple of other notes from the PD. Just last week, one of our officers, Detective Jamie Onion, was awarded the Northern Ohio Fugitive Task Force Officer of the Year. And next slide. One of our officers, this is Mike Jones, received the Police Chiefs Association Award for bravery for rescuing a man from a burning car. Next slide. Major issue during COVID, lots of people were speeding. This is 126 clocked on one of our guns. If you didn't think Willoughby Hills was aggressive before about speeding, we're looking at some new initiatives because it's just too dangerous. And next slide. We had 2 cruisers totaled on freeways and incidents this year. This was our K9 car. This was totaled in early August by an inattentive driver. And I appreciate everyone who reached out. The K9 was a little shaken up. The officer wasn't in the car, but everyone is doing fine. Next slide. Right at the end of the year, we had another incident where we had a cruiser totaled. And again, we were fortunate the officer wasn't in the car at the time, but just road safety, please encourage everyone to be safe out there. We were able to hire 2 new sergeants this year for the police department with retirements and the promotion of the chief, and 3 new full-time officers to fill vacancies. Also hired 2 new firefighter paramedics during 2020 to fill vacancies in the department. And most importantly, we were able to get through all of COVID without having to shut down or lay off any city employees. A couple of notes regarding finance. We ended up the year, thanks to great budget management by my department heads, but also to some funds distributed by the Bureau of Workers' Comp with about a $291,000 carryover, taking our general balance to just over 2 million. We also were able to negotiate new contracts with all our unions, and I'm incredibly supportive and grateful for them for their understanding with the uncertain condition of the city's finance during the pandemic. Next slide, a couple other initiatives. We were able to bring back our Whisper program for helping seniors. Next slide, the historic Grange that had been shut down is reopened, and Boys and Girl Scouts are meeting there now. Thank you to Councilwoman Taylor Draper and Councilman Jarmut-Scavich for their work there. We've also got a master plan going and a new charter revision. On the business side, next slide, our Mark's store relocated to the former Giant Eagle store, bigger and better. Next slide, we welcomed Milestone Fitness and the Vault Liquor and Spirits, the west side, as well as some new office tenants in the middle of the city. Next slide, please. And have a Benjamin Moore store and Gitano's restaurant opening soon. Next slide. As a new mayor, I would say it's tough to break into this group. They're pretty close. If you go to the next slide, I've decided to really seek the aid of a veteran public servant who might be able to help me. If you click the next one, Tyler, I think this might be the way to start to get into the loop. First here with the fireside chat with Bob, but then maybe next slide, helping out at a fire scene with Dennis. And I think that's Chief Hutton from Kirtland there. Next slide. So I think he's been successful in getting in, and these politicians, they can be pretty aggressive. Next slide. You never know how long it might take to push Dennis out of the picture and have a new Democrat in the group. Next slide, Tyler. I'm grateful to Mayor Regovich for explaining what the SID was. As a new mayor, you just kept hearing over and over, SID needs paperwork. Next slide. I thought there was some type of dysfunctional relationship. Go ahead and click it, Tyler. Because SID's very demanding. You needed to meet with SID's attorney. If you didn't meet with SID's attorney, there were consequences. You have to do a project for SID. And it just kept going over and over. So I'm glad it wasn't something worse than I thought. Next slide. But I'm certainly glad that Mayor Regovich could finally explain to me what SID was. So with that, next slide, Tyler. I'm sorry I went a little bit over, Karen. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning, and certainly looking forward to questions.
You did great, Mayor Andy. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move to Mayor Bob Fiala from the city of Willoughby.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. Karen, thank you, and Tyler and Donna for helping us put this on today. Next slide, Tyler. I think the mayors before me have mentioned what a dumpster fire of a year 2020 was, and so you can't say any more than what they've said already. But I think the next slide kind of sums it all up. And had we not slashed our budget to such an extent, I would have gotten these mugs for all the other mayors. But this clearly is 2020 was a challenge at so many different levels. Next slide. So what happened in Willoughby? We lost about $1.2 million in tax revenue last year. As the other mayors before me had mentioned, all of our summer events were canceled. Most of our parks and rec activities were canceled. Our senior center were closed. They still remain closed. It's just been, and our major planning projects, the TLCI that Mayors Morley and Regovich mentioned, is stalled. We're trying to get that moving forward. It's just been such a challenge. Next slide, please. But there's been a couple of good things. First is we ended with a strong fund balance. And the reason for that is because of the 2 tranches of CARES Act funding that we received, and also the rebates associated with the Bureau of Workmen's Comp that we've gotten. So we've moved through this successfully. With CARES Act money, we were fortunate to purchase 3 new police cruisers and a new squad. The challenge for all of us, I think, is going forward with budgeting. We all tend to use the budget from the prior year to budget for the forward year. And it's almost impossible to do this when you have a year that you had a revenue stream that was never accounted for and not to be accounted for going forward. So all of us are going to be challenged in budget season this year for sure. The one thing too that we've learned, and we're seeing it right here, is we've had to find new ways to communicate with our residents. It has been extremely challenging to get information out quickly and accurately when you can't be face to face. So we're hopeful that at least by mid-year, we're going to be able to, get back with our residents, talk to them in person, and that's going to solve many of our problems, or many of the communications issues that we face more specifically. Next slide. But a couple good things have happened. The first is we were fortunate in receiving 2 grants, one of which will help set the stage for an amphitheater along the Chagrin River. And this rendering actually shows that amphitheater's location along with the proposed development in the back that I reviewed last year. The Glen Ridge project in the back of the theater was placed on stall. We actually had 2 legitimate, very, very competent developers online for interviews, in-person interviews. Those were scheduled in March and they were canceled. And as a result, that project stalled as well. Next slide, please. Here's another view of this is a view looking down Glen, looking up towards Andrews Osborne and Fine Arts Association. And you'll see to the left what we hope will be Glen Ridge, and to the right, the amphitheater. Next slide. The second funding was for funding for a river trail. And Mayor Morley mentioned this. This is just the first phase of what we hope will be, next slide, will be a river trail that will continue. Our river trail will connect Daniels Park to Todd Fields. And we're already in planning stages with Mayors Morley and a host of other non-governmental agencies to actually extend this river trail all the way to the Chagrin River and mouth of Lake Erie. And we're hopeful that we can reach out to Andy Gardner, maybe continue this on. It would be wonderful to see Lake Erie connected all the way to the Cuyahoga or the Cuyahoga Metro Park system at the North Chagrin Reservation. Next slide. Here's an exciting project. This is the former Memorial Junior High School located near downtown. You'll see photos from 1925, 2019, and just a photo from a few weeks ago. TDA Architecture has purchased this building. They're in the midst of renovating it, and they are moving in. As we speak, they're actually moving into this building. It is a $5 million investment in downtown Willoughby in a building that really has no other practical use. And had not TDA stepped forward and made this investment, there was a good chance this building would have been demolished. And along with it, a great piece of our history. Next slide, please. This project you'll see highlighted in yellow sits at the right across from Andrews Osborne in Fine Arts. And what it's going to be, next slide, will be a new rental apartment project built and developed by the Maroos Brothers Construction Company and Maroos Development Team. It was recently approved through Planning Commission and City Council, and we're hopeful that we'll see a spring start of this project. Next slide. Another project that we're excited about, and this is right in downtown Willoughby. The highlighted area is the Vintage Development property, which is owned by Maroos Brothers. And to the right, you'll see Erie Street. The street right below the highlighted area is 2nd Street, and you'll know 2nd Street because the Malarkey's is located on it and the US Bank building. Next slide. And what Maroos will be doing is surgically inserting a 3-story rental building in play and removing the existing Vintage building that sits there right now. This is important for downtown because this puts residents right in the heart of our downtown, which is, it's no secret for Willoughby, our downtown is our calling card. So this is an important project for us. Next slide, please. We're also excited, 3 projects in a row that we've talked about Maroos, but you'll see in these lower 2 pictures, the Maroos Brothers headquarters. This represents a $10 million investment in Willoughby, and more importantly, keeps one of our major employers here in our city. And along with all of that, it's the gateway to Willoughby. This is right at Route 2 and Vine Street. And we've got a significant presence right at the entry to our city. And interestingly, this is the 3rd auto dealership in Willoughby that's been purchased and converted to some other use. Process Technologies is another on the other side of Willoughby near Mentor. And we're hopeful a subsidiary of Jack Prince is moving their their downtown manufacturing group here in Willoughby as well. And they've recently purchased an auto dealership, so we're happy about that. And also, next slide, please. Just yesterday, the Marks opened up, so we're excited about that. It's been in the making for quite a while. So we're pleased, along with Mayor Gardner, to announce that we've got 2 brand new Marks functioning in 2 adjacent cities. So congratulations to you, Mayor Gardner, and we're just delighted this is here. Next slide. So here's our favorite mayor, right? And by the way, Mayors Potter and Andy Gardner, you are now on the list. So I know that Mayors Regovich and Morley will remember this today's meeting, and we don't know what we're going to see for next year. But unfortunately, I don't keep Mayor Morley's picture in my bedroom. It's in my basement, and I rarely go down there. But once a year, I do take it out to show it off to everybody. Next slide. And here's a more recent non-high school picture of our favorite mayor. And to echo Mayor Regovich's comments, the leadership of Mayor Morley over this past year cannot be overstated. He was given an incredibly challenging set of circumstances. Between all the things that happened this year, he had to keep all of the mayors and managers in Lake County focused and heading in the same direction. And he's done a remarkable job. And even though we poke fun at him occasionally, he's provided remarkable leadership for our county. And I think I speak for all the mayors and all the managers in Lake County in applauding him and his efforts. And he's been so this has been recognized far beyond Lake County. And recently, as he was observing the ice that goes down the river near the mouth of the river, which he does occasionally with Channel 5 News, the next slide, he had a visitor, a presidential hopeful actually came there and watched the ice go to the Lake Erie with him. So Dennis, congratulate you on not only leading us, but also getting a presidential hopeful right here on the riverfront to watch ice. So with that, next slide. I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to open or answer any questions after we're all done here. Thank you.
Mayor Fiala, thank you so much. And last but not least, Mayor John Barbish with the City of Wickliffe.
Thank you all. And wow, those are some tough acts to follow, but definitely, thanks to the fellow mayors. Enjoy working with everyone, and definitely echoing everyone's statements about Mayor Morley, the great and powerful Mayor Morley, who's leading the.
John, can you put up your speaker just a little bit? We can't hear you very well.
Is that better?
The connection's good. It's just not very loud.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Let's move a little closer. Yeah, tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. And thanks to all the mayors in Western Lake County and across the county, and of course, the great and powerful Dennis Morley, Mayor of Eastlake, who leads these weekly calls and organizing everything and all the information. Done a great job there. Next slide. So again, state of the city. So current financial health of Wickliffe. We did end up December 2020 with a general fund or our savings account of about 5.2 million, which was up 900,000 from the 2019 year end. Some of the mayors talked about the federal funds received from COVID. We received about $2.1 million. And if you look at these numbers, we've really, I think it was needed for the people, but for some of the municipalities, it really wasn't. I think it was fairly irresponsible of the federal government to give out so much money when we used that money to buy vehicles. And we still ended up in our general fund. Obviously, we canceled a lot. We didn't have a lot of overtime, so there was a lot of variables and a lot of factors. But I think we've all seen a lot of people receive money that didn't really need it, and there's still a lot of people struggling. But with that, we used about $300,000 for a small business grant, gave out up to $5,000 per business. And I think there was 52 businesses that took advantage of that. And if we do get any more federal money this year, every penny will go back to the taxpayers in the city. And I don't know how we would accomplish that, if it would be through RETA, some kind of rebate in that sense. But with at $5.2 million in our savings account, I certainly will not use it for anything in the city. Every penny will go back to taxpayers in the city. They didn't pass the budget. We had a finance committee last week. They'll be voting on the budget the next couple weeks. And the financial forecasting, there's so many variables. It looks like we'll end the year, if everything goes as planned, which, as we know, it usually doesn't. We'll go from 5.2 million to about 4.5, 4.8. But that is with some decent projects as well. A lot of road and a lot of sewer work. Next slide. Talking about Green Ridge Golf Course for a minute. Now, I talked about this last year, but with limited golf courses in the area, we've been very busy. Continuing to reinvest in the course. Our net profit was up $60,000 last year. And I think a lot of that was, we kept it open almost all year. We had folks just drop off money. Even there was a point in time where we didn't have any staff there, and we just, on our system, slide some money under the door, and people were still showing up when they couldn't go to the movies. They couldn't do anything indoors. They were golfing. So we're continuing to reinvest and put that money back in. It's sort of like our sewer funds or street lighting funds. Any money made in the golf course can only be spent on the golf course. We can't take that $60,000 and use it towards roads. And this course is great for beginners, kids, families, and seniors. Next slide. So the community reinvestment area, CRA, I talked about this last year too, but want to keep harping on it. We do have tax abatements available for residential and commercial across the entire city. And that's been in place for about a full year now. And I know a lot of the mayors have a lot of big developments happening, residential areas. Wickliffe's pretty much built out, for the most part at this point. So the houses we've seen built, it's 2 houses here, 2 houses there. And again, they're beautiful homes, $200,000, $250,000 squeezed in every possible lot. They sell sometimes within a week, within 2 weeks, and they're all taking advantage of that tax abatement, which is great. And that is for new construction and remodels and additions. And what that does, that abates the increased value. So if you purchase a building that's taxed at $250,000, make improvements, it's now worth $500,000. With the tax abatement, you're still only paying tax on the $250,000. Hopefully make it easier for folks to reinvest into the properties. One of the things I started enforcing the vacant building ordinance in 2018, which essentially, if you have a commercial building that's empty and it's not listed, and we unfortunately had several of those on Euclid Avenue, we impose a fine, and that fine doubles every year. So now with that, if you drive down Euclid Avenue, guess what? Everyone's got their properties for sale. They've got them listed and they're starting to turn over. So had to get a lot of nasty phone calls for that. Got yelled at a few times, but it was needed and it's moved in the right direction. Next slide. So some economic development projects. True Line is finishing up soon. I feel like I've talked about that quite a bit, but they moved from Chesterland and they're building a new facility right across from the post office on Lloyd Road there in Euclid Avenue, right sort of behind Petty's Pizza and then across from the post office. $11 million new facility, and they're building out for the next 40, 50 years. They're already getting into the third generation of this business. Premier Development, the former ABB building. Yeah, it's a total of about 43-acre site. They've got a warehouse on Warden Road that butts up to the tracks, and the 11 acres available to build, it's the parking lot behind the fire station. So amazing location. There's the Warden Road bridge there, so you don't have to worry about the train. You can get to 305, you can get to Lloyd Road ramp, I think within a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And Premier Development, they've done a lot of projects in the region. Amazing, design, build, management facilities. So if anybody, anybody looking for, land available in the commercial industrial area, there's 11 acres available right now. They do still have some warehouse and office space available. If you remember the front building that faces Euclid Avenue, it's still empty. They're hoping to lease that out. But if that doesn't work, that can be demoed for new construction as well. Lake Trans making some big investments, new park and ride facility at Lakeland Boulevard and the Lloyd Road Freeway. There'll be electric charging for their electric buses and I believe for electric cars in the future, new waiting area and landscaping throughout. So it looks fairly barren right now. They tore everything down, the fence around it, but that's going to look real nice afterwards. And we are beginning to finally repave Lakeland Boulevard this year in partnership with Willowick. So we're starting, I'm not sure how much Willowick is doing this year, but we're starting at the Willowick border and then moving west, and it's going to be, I think, 3 phases. We'll complete that, ending year 2023. Next slide. New K through 12 campus construction starting soon, and that will be, so we passed a bond, was it last year or the year before? New K through 12 campus, and that's going to be on the high school lot up on Rockefeller Road. So with that, I talked before how we're really built out. We're only building one house here, one house there, because that's all the room we have. The current elementary and middle school demo will begin in 2023. There was already money in that bond, about $1.1 million for demolition. And that's going to open up 14 acres at Euclid and Lincoln, pretty much across from Petty's Pizza. And of course, this will need to be rezoned. It's most likely going to be residential where the elementary school is on Lincoln, closer to Ridge Road. Then where the middle school is, that sits on Euclid Avenue, we don't know. We don't have any plans at this point. I'm still trying to get council to make some decisions on, are we doing a strategic plan? They keep going back and forth, and we're not making a lot of progress there. But I'm hoping we can get something started midpoint this year. We can start planning for that, working with the school. Myself and council president meet with Superintendent Specia, and he's doing an amazing job on this K-12 campus design and the collaborations and moving everything forward. So we stay in contact. There's people that are interested in the property. It's just we've got to wait a little bit, but that's going to open up again 14 acres, for development. One thing we did discuss in the finance committee meeting, which the council was okay with, a storefront renovation program. This is going to be small, forgivable grants available soon for small businesses. And this is going to be across the entire city, not just on Euclid Avenue. I'll have the details out soon, but it's probably going to be around, I think we got $50,000 total for the grant. We don't know how many folks are going to take advantage of it. But let's say if you're a business and some of these buildings that are dilapidated, they've been empty for a decade that I've talked about, people are hesitant to buy them because it needs so much work. There's the Key Bank building, if you guys are familiar with that, where Sussex was, that building's for sale. The entire upstairs needs to be gutted. The roof needs to be redone, new HVAC, new electrical. Probably needs $200,000 worth of work. And of course, the storefront grant isn't going to make all that, go away. But with the tax abatements, and let's say even for signage, that can help with signage, that can help with landscaping, and some of these young business owners that are making the investments. I just want to try to do as much as possible to make it easy for these folks during these difficult times. So really the retail, the restaurants, they've had it the worst. I'm able to come to my office, being a part-time mayor, I'm able to come to my office every day and still work. The health department doesn't bother me. They're not in the professional offices. It's the restaurants and those retail folks that are really, really still struggling, and I think are going to for a while. So, we've got to help them as much as we can, and the storefront renovation program, hopefully at least help with that a little bit. Next slide. I think that might be, yeah, that's it. So looking forward to any questions afterwards. I thank you all again, and thanks to the chamber for putting this together. I really miss seeing everyone in person. This is one of my favorite events. Still is, just obviously not the same, being there with all the mayors cracking jokes. So Karen, back to you, and thanks everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mayor Barbish. Okay, does anyone have any questions at this point? We still have about 53 people on the call, so any questions from anybody?
Karen, can I ask Mayor Gardner a question?
Sure.
The person that the police pulled over for 124 miles an hour, this is a slightly aging mayor with a red Corvette.
All right, that fits the description. We also charged him with reckless operation.
Sounds like our guy.
Okay, well, I guess we don't have any questions. Great presentations. Oh, there is a question. Okay, now there's two questions. All right, first question is, what is the Glen Ridge development?
The Glen Ridge represents, for those of you that might be familiar with the with our Todd Fields, we've got a large area that just is a parking lot. It's actually a former fill dump site, garbage dump site. And and it's owned by the city, of course. What we're going to do is release that property for development, and it will require EPA approval, of course, but we're hopeful to bring some more retail, possibly some office and residential closer to downtown. So the intent with Glen Ridge is to release the property at no cost for development. And in return, we get some additional parking and we get better access to our historic downtown.
Thank you, Mayor Fiala. I'm going to give this question to Andy, since this was one that he struggled with when he first came on as mayor. And I think it's a great question because I didn't know what it was either until I started working with the cities. What is a SID?
And I'll defer to Mayor Morley. I always thought it was somebody who wanted to divorce Mayor Morley at the beginning, because very demanding, lots of attorneys involved, wanted things done right away. So I'll defer to Mayor Morley to answer that.
A SID is a special improvement district. So the 12 communities on the lake have formed this with our residents, and it will help them with the erosion, the cost of the erosion, which one of the biggest benefits will be, like right now, if they had to fix their erosion, let's just say they had to take $100,000 out on an equity line, and they decided to move, that $100,000, they still have to pay that. With the SID being formed, it will be a tax lien. And again, we're working with the county and one of the law firms that works with the county on this, that they will end up taking right now it's set up for 15 years. And then if they would move, that lien would go to the next homeowner. So that's the biggest help for them. And it's also, from what we're gathering, it's going to be a low interest rate. But yeah, we always just throw the acronyms around of SID. But yeah, that's what it is, Special Improvement District. I'd also like to actually thank all my colleagues. We do a lot of kidding and jabbing, and good to see Mayor Groundhog had his picture. And of course, I've always told this, Mayor Fiala and Mayor Regovich was always not listening to the social gatherings throughout the summer. So I'm glad Mayor Gardner called them and Mayor Potter, and they all called them two out on it, because they always look at it that I'm the mean mayor. But of course, when you see the pictures that are up, you don't ever see me putting pictures of any of my colleagues up. But now next year, I think we're on, and I think the new mayors are part of this group, and we will welcome you next year with some hopefully we're in person for one. And this year, if we would have been in person, Mayor Regovich wanted to do, we were all going to do WWE music as we came in to do our presentation. So again, this Zoom, everyone's pretty over the Zooms, but it was good to hear and talk to everyone today. But yeah, if there's any questions for me, I'm still here.
So another question, what have most of the cities spent their money on from the CARES Act?
Well, I didn't talk about that. So we ended up actually also buying a new squad, a rescue squad. We bought 6 service vehicles. We already had in our budget. We actually got 2 new pumpers that wasn't used with CARES Act. We had in our budget. So we've been replacing. We did now we go to get in and out of City Hall. There's a fob, so we're touchless. We put plexiglass in our building department. Because the building department is the area most for our people to come in, our residents and contractors. So we put that for the protection of our employees and our, our residents and contractors. And then we bought things. Besides the PPE we get from the county, personal protective equipment for the people with the SID that Andy never could figure out, but PPE, Andy, personal protective equipment. We bought for obviously our employees and our safety forces, especially some of the things we did. We also got 3 new police cars with our CARES Act money. So we did a lot of things for, especially with the equipment for our employees' safety. Because before, service guys would 2, 3 in a truck. Now, we go to 1 per truck. So some good things came out of the CARES Act money. But I agree with Mayor Barbish. There's things that, and again, everyone can always say what can have been different, but there's some things that could have been done differently with the CARES Act money. And so we're hoping that there's federal funding for especially the bars and the restaurants that have hit hard in our communities, along with some of our other businesses. But like we've reached out to our businesses, and everyone else was saying the same thing. Help who you can and try to, get money from with some of the programs that are out there for our smaller businesses. And again, the Lake County captains in our city took the biggest beating in our city, especially for just not being able to play. So, but yeah, so that's what we used our CARES Act money for.
Anyone else want to address that question in terms of what you spent your CARES Act money on if you didn't give it in your presentation?
I could add to that. We did very similar, and I think you can go in just about any building in Willowick now and not have to touch a door. It'll automatically open for you. You can get your temperature taken without having to touch anything with the screen, just by looking into a screen. We also bought a new ambulance squad, and the majority of a big portion of our money went to police and fire overtime in their hours, which we were allowed to do near the end. I think the public opinion may be that, oh, great, you had all this money. It's hard for a mayor to sit who's looking at pennies and nickels all day and how to save them. And it says, hey, here's all this money, encumber it by November and spend it by the end of December, and without very little rules in the beginning. So we were all timid to jump. No one wanted to be the first one in the door, but you also didn't want to be the mayor that didn't do anything with it at the end. So it was kind of challenging for our staff because we did a lot of paperwork and a lot of things to make that happen. So I applaud all of my colleagues and everyone that had to go through this throughout the United States. It's just a different mindset and a different way of thinking, because we don't just usually spend money like that. It's very difficult to do. And we've had many special council meetings to approve things this year. So that's one thing where Zoom meetings was worked out well, is we can have a special meeting next week and everyone can be at home and do it and not have to worry about coming to City Hall. But yeah, it's kind of, I think we're all pretty similar in where we spent it.
Anyone else want to address that question?
Yeah, from Kirtland's perspective, it's similar. We bought a new ambulance, a lot of touchless equipment, City Hall, at our community center, touchless faucets and bathroom items. So, and again, like Rich said, the opportunity to use some of that money to augment those wages for those, overtime and police and fire. you know, it was a blessing to have gotten that money, especially with all of the uncertainty. I think, you know, the other thing we did is a server upgrade here at City Hall. Although you wouldn't see that we did a technology upgrade based on my earlier tech issues, but you know, that's going to enable people to work remotely when need be, as this crisis kind of, you know, carries on. Hopefully we're out of that sooner than later. So yeah, basically what Dennis and Rich had said, you know, we spent a lot of our dollars, you know, very wisely, obviously, on things that we needed to deal with the COVID crisis. So it was fortunate we got the money, and if the next round comes, we'll see what we're allowed to spend it on.
Anyone else? And does any of the cities have any unspent CARES Act funding left?
Not if we want to get reelected.
Right.
I think the funny thing that happened to all of us, we were told, you know, we had to have everything spent by December 31st of 2020. And on December 31st of 2020, we were told you have one more year, but we had this discussion on our mayor's meeting last week, and no one has money left because we did what we were told to do, have it spent by the end of the year. So, but again, I think we all, everyone did the best they could with the money. So yeah, I don't believe, from what the Auditor Galloway said, no one did turn back their money. So we're just seeing if there's going to be any more money for the future. I know the governor's looking at some things, and we'll see what happens.
So this wasn't a question, but last one, someone asked, are you taking this act on the road? Love you guys.
Well, I sent that answer to Amy Sabbath, so it would be interesting for us all to be together on the road, but I don't know. You have to ask the other mayors.
Dennis is crabby too much. He doesn't like to get out. This pandemic's been perfect for him. He can social distance.
I don't know where we'd be going on the road, but I know we'd get there quickly.
We could go in a new amphitheater in Willoughby as soon as it's built.
Rumor has it there's a concert Saturday night.
There could be,
One of our colleagues plays.
I'll be there, 7 p.m.
You're all welcome to come, and everybody here on this on our meeting this morning, to come to Willoughby and spend money. So mayors, if I'll give you the red carpet, so just let us know when and where you'll be.
Oh, that's right. I don't have anywhere to park even during the pandemic.
Is the
All right.
construction done there yet?
Well, you know what? It's always construction, which is a good thing. I'm still waiting to move into those apartments next to the
Courthouse?
Yeah. But you know, that's why we're trying to get this Vine Street thing done so I can get a ride into Willoughby, because again, you can't park anywhere in Willoughby, which I guess is a good thing.
You don't need a ride, take the trail. Just go along the river.
As long as I have my floaties on.
You can paddle a kayak.
There you go.
Okay, on that note, thank
Come
you
on,
so
Karen.
First of all, just want to thank CT Consultants, our sponsor today. And again, I want to thank all of our mayors for their amazing servant leadership to our communities and everything that they've done. As you can all see, we've got great mayors that are doing all that they can to build our communities. So just much appreciation and thanks to them. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you to everyone's time, and we'll look forward to seeing you at our next Willoughby Western Lake County Chamber of Commerce program. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, Karen.
All right, you
Bye,
guys have a
everybody.
great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Talk to you guys tomorrow at 11.